Found a use for my shout out arrow. It's going to be my Mantis gun for a little while I continue testing it. But what I want to talk about today is that poor people cannot afford to shoot an arrow. And it might sound a little bit strange to say because of some of the comments and the feedback I've been getting about my video about shooting out an arrow. Like a lot of you guys think that it's very strange that I would take an arrow rifle, and this is absolutely not the first time I've done this, take an arrow and just train with it and shoot it. And predictably, it didn't last that long. And I say, predictably at this point, yeah, for me, it doesn't surprise me. It didn't last that long. Now, for most people, it's stupid, it's wasteful. It's like, why would you do this? Like, but in my world, shooting an arrow out, it's like that's just a legitimate business expense for me. It's not really a problem. As a matter of fact, it's kind of good because I learn how different equipment works and, like build my understanding. And also I train at the same time. But if you're poor, I mean, I was poor, Ben, for a long time when I was shooting. If you're poor, you want something like this. All right. This is the old BCM, complete BCM upper, just on an arrow lower. Now, this would actually be cheaper in the long run if you really sit and think about it. And what I mean is like this: having nice, reliable guns to train with or compete with or whatever, that's going to end up saving you so much money and so much hassle. And if you're poor, like that actually matters. Like the less money you have, the more you can't be monkeying around with crappy gear. Now, poor Ben used to compete with Beretta pistols, and I remember at one point I had two practice guns and one match gun. And that was the case for like 6 years. I don't think those guns really changed. Um, and they were pretty reliable. Now, I didn't know that much about how to take care of guns. I know a little more now how to take care of guns, but then I knew nothing. Like for 6 years, 6 years, I didn't know it was even a thing that I would take the extractor out of my gun to clean it or clean behind it or whatever, or anything. Like I didn't know about that. It did not affect my life because I was shooting reliable guns. I mean, say whatever you want about the Berettas now, but the ones that I had in that time, they ran like tops. Again, I was shooting high level competitive shooting, training as much as I could, and I did not know for 6 years that I had to clean behind the extractor. Of course, I found that information out in the worst possible way, the worst possible. But for that 6 years, it was a pretty good run. And I was poor. Like it really mattered. Like I didn't have money for another gun. It's like, no, I need to get ammo and it needs to work. And the guns I have need to work. And I don't have extra, time or money to be monkeying with this stuff. And that's why like training is like, I'd point somebody more towards this, especially like if the few hundred extra bucks to get something a little bit higher grade, or especially with the barrel, like you get a high grade barrel, as a lot of people in the comments pointed out, that's really the weak point with the arrows. I got the highest grade barrel they sold for the arrows, and I've gone through multiples of them in some guns, and they still just keep shooting out. Um, like I can afford to do that now, but if all I had was the one gun, it would really need to work. Like it would really have to work, and that's even if you're not planning on really training with it seriously. I think a lot of you guys should think ahead to be like, hey, maybe right now I'm not going to get a rifle and like buy a few thousand rounds a year and train with it. But you might buy a rifle now, and then 3, 4 years down the line, you start buying, you're like, oh, I want to train with it. I'm getting some more money. I'm going to buy some rifle ammo and blah, 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 start training with it. Well, then you have something that you can trust that you know is going to work. All right. Um, yeah. And that's what you should have. You cannot afford to monkey around shooting out an arrow gun just for shits and gigs. And I'll tell you something else. When I was shooting this thing, I was not being abusive, like intentionally. I just, again, I don't wear a glove. I just shoot it. I don't wrap the guard here. So for heat, I don't make this thing comfortable to shoot when it's hot because I don't want it to be comfortable to shoot when it's hot. Because once it gets hot, I want to trade to a different rifle because I don't want to shoot it in a way that's abusive. All right. And you know what? In short order, I shot it out anyway. Let's contrast that with this particular rifle. Like I don't generally try to be abusive. I just had a flashlight, AD. The Instagram live people are going to love that. Anyway, um, this particular rifle has, I don't know, 12 or 15,000 rounds on it. Most of that with the can attached. I don't really like shooting with the can, but sometimes I have to shoot the can, so I should train with the can a little bit and blah, 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 blah. You know how that goes. I got to practice with it if I'm going to use it. Now, this gun I've also tried not to abuse, but I'm not going to lie, I did do something abusive to it. Like I was horribly abusive to it once. Because of the circumstances, I felt I didn't have a choice. Some guys and I were shooting at this like rubber dummy, and I was trying to shoot its head off. And we'd put some considerable effort into this, and it got to the point where I'm shooting, shooting, shooting with this thing, and people are just feeding me mags. I think it was 6, 7 mags in rapid succession. The gun got so hot, I had to take the support hand off of it, just shoot it one handed. Um, Eventually, the head of the dummy came off, and I stopped. But that by that point, this thing was so hot, I couldn't hold, like, the trigger guard was getting hot. I couldn't hold on to the rifle anymore, and the can was glowing red hot. Um, it was awesome. It was also not exactly something the manufacturers of these products are going to recommend I do. It was definitely abusive, and if I'd broken anything doing that, that would have been on me. However, this gun is still good to go. It's still groups. It still shoots really nice. The suppressor still works. Nothing really happened. Like, if you can only have the one gun, you should get one that you think at least there's a chance that it can take some abuse, because you never know. You never know. You want it. You want the best thing possible. So anyway, that's the message today. If you're poor, you cannot afford to shoot an arrow. You really can't. Um, if you're just like shooting like you don't give a fuck, like kind of my thing, like yeah, I'll shoot the arrow and I'll tell you how it goes, but I don't think that poor people should buy them.